maybe thinking about the adult education and how you do messaging up front might be a better way of actually accomplishing everything that the organization actually wanted to do. So CME is a strategic lever. And I'm going to stop there and answer any questions, and then we'll move on to, I think there's a break after this. So thank you very much. Any questions? Just everybody wants a break? Yes. So the question was, I had brought up cases where the lawyers were looking at the implication that if somebody attended a conference and some facts were presented and they accepted credit for it, are they held to the standard that they should have known it and done it? And the question was actually flipped a little bit, which was to say if that were to occur, does the CME provider have some liability if it were determined they didn't cover certain things? And I think the answer is we all have liability in life, in everything we do. I will not make it through my entire career, despite the fact that I've been practicing for 23 years without being sued. It will happen. It's happened once and I got dropped. It'll happen again. So if the question is possible, the answer always is yes. I think from when we've spoken to the attorneys, the answer has been no from the legal standpoint, but yes from potentially OIG and others. If somebody were to look and then ask for additional information and find a pattern that you provide continuing medical education and never have slides on side effects. As an example, they might say this is, and those are all somehow funded or connected to industry in some way. The FDA may reach its arm out and say, we think you've actually been doing something under the guise of this, but calling it that. So I think you could have liability sort of secondarily if there's a pattern of sort of fraudulent education. But you know, you asked me to come and give a talk at your institution on sepsis. And you tell me I have 30 minutes. I have to make some tough decisions about what I'm going to include, not include, good and bad, evidence and non-evidence. Am I going to have kids and adults? Will I include neonates? Will I talk about sepsis as a primary event or a secondary? Lots of decisions to be made in confined time frames. So leaving some things out are really not a problem unless at least in our opinion and our lawyers' review of it, unless there's really a pattern that you're repetitively leaving things out that are important for people to know. Think of the opioid issue and the whole REMS issue. If you didn't ever talk about opioids and its potential life-threatening impact if used inappropriately, it might be seen as what's going on here. You're just promoting drug use as opposed to promoting a balanced educational perspective. Great question, though. Everybody wants a break? Yes, Ed.
Great presentation, as usual. I would like for you to respond to the many conversations I've had with small CME programs who go to their CEO, CFO, or whoever, and say, you know what, you're a cost center. I don't value CME. I've got other issues I've got to contend here because we're having to slash our budget down to the bare minimum. How would you respond in helping these small CME programs to increase their value, both on the tangible and intangible, if you were to summarize that in your story, if you will, that help them out? I mean, great information and data, but these small programs are struggling and to stay alive.
I think it's a great question, and again, I think it's like many things, there's not a single answer to how to do it. It depends on how they're designed and what they're really trying to accomplish. And maybe in some circumstances, maybe there are too many accredited providers around and we could use some consolidation in this industry. So number one is I would do what we just did, sit down and try to find out where you bring value to the organization. So you're going to have to start by backing up and asking what are the values of the organization. You may find that the system that you're in doesn't value lifelong learning and doesn't value this at all. It's been doing it only because it saw it as a profit line, and now that it doesn't see it that way, CME anymore. It's decided it's not part of its core business. That message to yourself would be that you need to find a new job, because they're going to eventually tell you to find a new job. There's nothing you're going to do to move them. If they're that staunch in the issue of, we're only about profit, that's what we are, we're not going to get it out of this arm, we got to stop doing it. Otherwise, I think you have to try to look at some things that, again, I think haven't happened a lot. I think the design of CME in the country has been much more about competition than it has been about collaboration. I think we've done a bad job of creating a community of CME and showing how we partner to do things, so that the small shop can be leveraged for what they do well with bigger shops that do other things well, with maybe the state provider that does something else well, with the professional society that has access into its members in a way, right? I can only respond to people who attend my CME events through Hopkins if they tell me I can continue to respond to them. In a professional society, that's not so true, is it, right? They're your members, you can respond to them. So a partnership there may be very critical to look at leveraging some content expertise with maybe access and communication capability sequentially for education that neither one of us might be able to accomplish on our own. And because of the sort of competitive nature of how things have been created, we don't get there. So I would look to see what are the values of the primary center that you're looking for, and can you show that you match them. I would try to be creative and think, are there additional values that haven't been thought about before that you can bring to the table? Might be the impact of bringing people to the community. That could be speaker recognition and name brand. It could be attendees. It could be volume. It could be, again, hotel business, etc. And then I would look to see what I could do to change my value in the organization, probably through collaboration. So I would look to see, can I collaborate to get grants, if that's a value that they have? Can I collaborate to do education and bring recognition so that maybe the State Medical Society is publishing that they're putting on an activity with us, and you're getting recognition that your senior people now see as value when they thought you were just sort of practicing on your own, but didn't. In the end, Ed, I think if it's purely dollar that they want, and you can't produce that dollar margin, I don't think you're going to move them if that's all they're interested in it for. And that's part of the whole argument, right? It's not. It's a value. It's not a profit center. The business here, it's like that whole argument about, is a journal, right, is a magazine about ads, or is it about the articles? And we could argue forever the Harvard business case, and that you could end up arguing it's about the articles, but you could argue it doesn't exist. If it's a model of putting those articles out as advertisement, then it's only really about the advertisement. Without the advertisement, no articles will be published. Think about that related to some of the professional societies and journals and other things, right? What's the real business? So I'd like us to focus on the real business being education. I'm not silly, I understand. It may not always work. Yes, ma'am. I was just referring to the email and fax laws that say that people have to have the ability to opt out or opt in depending upon where you are and what has to happen and how you have to manage that, and have 24-hour availability of some system where they can say they don't want to be contacted again, and et cetera. And you may or may not know that there are some people around the country that follow that and attack that. There is one particular group, a physician and a lawyer, and I'm not sure who else, out of Ohio, that have contacted probably 25 or 30 people in the country claiming that they've received material from them that they didn't ask for, and that they'll gladly settle out of court for X thousands of dollars. And it's a money-making scheme, really, that they're doing. But you're managing your brand, right? You're avoiding the Sunday newspaper print that says that organization X didn't do what the federal laws say they're supposed to do. Yes, ma'am. So she was asking me to go back to MOL and MOC. So MOL is maintenance of licensure. This comes out of the Federation of State Medical Boards. It's unclear what its exact format will be. There's been some recent meetings that would imply it would tie intimately to MOC, at least for those that are certified. There have been some other discussions that clearly about 25% or so of physicians are not certified and board certified in this country, so will it require multiple processes. But the state boards are becoming more concerned about the legislative view and the legal view of them, that if they're licensing somebody and they're not good, how do they justify that they're licensing them? So they're looking at the same sort of issues. The ultimate, again, nobody knows, I don't have a perfect crystal ball, but if you listen to what the ABMS and the FSMB, the board side and the federation state side say, this is going to maintenance of competency, and you're going to see where the 10-year exam will be divided into 1-year aliquots. So as a physician, you have to take a piece of the exam for that year every year, so that there's an ongoing, iterative, continuous process of these boards and licensing groups being able to say you are in fact competent at this point in time. Not you were competent 6 years ago, and in another 2 years we'll test again to find out if you stayed competent. But some 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, some very tight cycle of saying that they got it and that they've shown the ability to improve. So sort of an adaptive expert as opposed to just a content expert. And so that's what that was referred to. The thing that scares physicians the most out of all this. Have no time, money going down, how are we going to do something more often? And if the issues don't reach confluence, if we don't build a system where MOC and MOL, and if it is competency, and CME and FPPE and OPPE and all of these sort of alphabet soups don't come together with one organized way, how are you going to expect the healthcare community on less money and less time to meet regulations across multiple different statutory groups? The groups are going to have to come together and come up with an organized way that makes it doable within the time frame that's allocated for doing it. You already have physicians working hours that many people would find to be problematic, and there's a big push to further reduce those. So can't reduce time, reduce patient exposure, reduce dollars, and keep increasing the number of things you want them to do that are outside of the patient performance. I think that's it for, is it break time? I'm looking for. Thank you so much.